There will be days when you speak from the deepest part of your soul, and still someone looks at you as if your truth has no sound. But silence from others does not mean silence within you. Being misunderstood doesn't mean you're wrong. It often means you've grown. Growth has a way of shifting your voice, widening your vision, and deepening your understanding of the world in a way that not everyone around you can immediately grasp. When you grow, you begin to think differently, speak differently, and move differently. You begin to respond to life with a new level of clarity, self-respect, and emotional maturity. And sometimes the people who once understood you perfectly become confused by the person you are becoming. They might judge you, question you, resist your transformation, or label you as distant, strange, or difficult. Yet their confusion is not a sign of your error. It is simply proof that you are evolving into a version of yourself they have not yet learned to recognize. Growth stretches you in ways that can make other people uncomfortable. When you rise above old patterns, your choices stop matching the expectations others have built around you. They may not understand why you no longer tolerate what you once accepted. They may not understand why you choose peace over chaos, silence over argument, or boundaries over approval. They may not see the strength it takes to walk away from drama, or the courage it takes to say no when your whole life you were trained to say yes. Your transformation challenges their routine. It asks them to either grow with you or step aside. And many people choose to stand still. That stillness creates misunderstanding. You must remember that not everyone evolves at the same pace. Some people cling to the familiar even when it hurts them, while others seek higher levels of consciousness, healing, and purpose. When your journey leads you to think in ways they never considered, they may interpret your clarity as arrogance or your independence as selfishness. But your new way of being is not a performance. It is a reflection of the inner work you've done. You have simply risen to a place they have not yet climbed. Your voice sounds different because your soul is different, and their inability to understand your shift does not diminish the truth behind it. Think of it this way. Growth is like learning a new language. Once you begin to understand peace, the old vocabulary of conflict no longer makes sense. When you learn the language of self-respect, the old sentences of people-pleasing no longer feel natural. When you begin to speak the language of healing, the conversations rooted in blame or bitterness feel foreign to your spirit. So those who still speak in the old tongue may struggle to understand what you're saying. You are not wrong. You are simply fluent in something they have not yet begun to study. There will be times when people accuse you of changing, as if changing is a crime. They may say you've become too quiet, too distant, too confident, too focused, too selective. But what they call change is actually growth, and what they call distance is a boundary. What they describe as attitude is really self-worth. What they label as cold is the emotional discipline you develop to protect your peace. You are not who you were before, and you are not meant to apologize for that. You have every right to expand into a stronger version of yourself. When people misunderstand you, your instinct may be to explain yourself repeatedly to make them see your heart, or to desperately prove that your intentions are pure. But growth teaches you this. Not everyone deserves access to your explanations. Not everyone has earned the right to hear your reasoning or understand your evolution. Some people misunderstand you because it protects their comfort. If they admit you have grown, then they must confront why they have not. It is easier for them to question you than to question themselves. Eventually, you learn that misunderstanding is not always something to correct. Sometimes it is something to accept. You learn that your growth is not a group project. You do not need unanimous approval to live in alignment with your truth. You do not need a round of applause to set boundaries that protect your mental and emotional health. You do not need validation to elevate your standards. People may misunderstand your silence, your choices, your ambition, your spiritual growth, your healing journey. Let them. Their misunderstanding does not stop your transformation. Growth also teaches you to recognize the beauty in being misunderstood. It shows you who truly sees you, who genuinely listens, and who is capable of walking with you as you evolve. Those who are meant for your next chapter will understand you instinctively. They will feel your frequency shift and rise with you. They will not shame your transformation, but celebrate it. They will not ask you to shrink, but encourage you to expand. They will not misunderstand your healing. They will honor it. Being misunderstood by some often leads you closer to those who resonate with the person you're becoming. You must also understand that outgrowing people is not an act of rejection. It is an act of alignment. You cannot force someone to meet you at a level they have no desire to reach. You cannot drag someone into maturity if they are committed to repeating their cycles. You cannot teach someone to understand a truth they are emotionally unprepared to receive. Your responsibility is to grow, not to convince. Your responsibility is to evolve, not to translate your evolution into a language that makes others comfortable. As you continue to rise, there will be moments of loneliness, moments when you feel unseen or unheard. But solitude is not emptiness. It is preparation. The space created by those who misunderstand you will soon be filled with people who truly value your heart, your growth, and your authenticity. Do not fear the distance misunderstanding creates. Fear the self-betrayal that comes from shrinking yourself to avoid being misunderstood. You are not wrong for becoming who you were meant to be. You are not wrong for wanting peace, clarity, joy, purpose, and strength. Your growth is not a burden, it is a blessing. And if your transformation causes others to misread your intentions or question your path, let their misunderstanding be the price of your evolution. You were not born to remain in the same emotional, spiritual, or mental place. You were born to rise. Being misunderstood is not your downfall. It is the echo of a soul that has outgrown its old surroundings. It is the sign that you are stepping into a higher version of yourself, one that not everyone is prepared to understand, but one that your future absolutely requires. People listen through the filter of their wounds, fears, and past experiences. Every human being carries an inner world shaped by the moments that broke them, the lessons that saved them, and the memories that scarred or strengthened them. These inner stories become the lens through which they interpret every word, gesture, or silence. When someone listens to you, they are not only hearing your voice, they are hearing their own history echoing behind your words. They are hearing from the place where they were once hurt, once abandoned, once embarrassed, once betrayed, once misunderstood. And because of that, what you say and what they hear may not always match. A person who has lived a life of rejection may hear criticism even when you speak gently. A person who has been betrayed may suspect dishonesty even when you are being sincere. Someone who has been silenced may interpret your boundaries as an attack. Someone who has been controlled may read your guidance as domination. And someone who has lived in fear may mistake your confidence for threat. Their ears are tuned to the lessons their pain has taught them, not always to the intention behind your message. This is why communication between two souls is never just about words. It is about the emotional weight those words carry inside the other person. When you speak, your meaning is shaped by your clarity. But when they listen, it is shaped by their emotional history. No matter how beautifully you express yourself, you cannot control the emotional filter another person uses to receive you. For some, your truth might feel like healing. For others, that same truth might feel like conflict. And in many cases, their reaction says far more about their inner battles than about your character. People respond from the place where they are wounded, not always from the place they wish they could reach. Think of a person who was raised in chaos. They grew up in a home where anger erupted without warning, where shouting was normal, where silence felt dangerous. As an adult, even a calm conversation may feel threatening to them because their nervous system learned long ago that words can be weapons. When you speak directly, they may not hear your courage. They may hear a coming storm. They are not reacting to your tone. They are reacting to the memories that tone awakens within them. Imagine someone who has experienced abandonment again and again. To them, distance feels like danger. Any boundary feels like rejection. A simple pause can feel like a goodbye. So when you need space, instead of hearing your need for clarity, they hear their old fear whispering, "You are being left again." Your intention and their interpretation live in two different worlds, yours in the present, theirs in the past. People also listen through the filter of their beliefs. If they believe the world is unsafe, your ideas will sound risky. If they believe everyone is out to hurt them, your honesty will sound suspicious. If they believe they are unworthy, your compliments may sound like pity. If they believe love must be earned, your kindness may confuse them. And if they believe vulnerability is weakness, they may misread your openness as a trap. What they hear is shaped less by your truth and more by their internal narrative. Fears act as powerful filters too. Someone who fears losing control will struggle to hear advice without feeling attacked. Someone who fears conflict will hear disagreement as disrespect. Someone who fears judgment will take even gentle feedback as personal rejection. Someone who fears intimacy may hear your affection as pressure. Fear turns simple sentences into emotional triggers. Fear translates neutral moments into threats, and fear can twist truth into something unrecognizable. Past experiences shape these filters in ways people often don't realize. A child who grew up unseen becomes an adult who assumes no one cares. A person who was constantly judged becomes hypersensitive to every opinion. Someone who was cheated on becomes suspicious even of loyalty. Someone who had to fight for every bit of love may not know how to receive peace without expecting pain. The past sits inside their ears, rewriting what they hear. This is why two people can experience the same moment and walk away with completely different interpretations. One hears love, another hears control. One hears honesty, another hears criticism. One hears boundaries, another hears abandonment. One hears encouragement, another hears pressure. It is not your fault, nor is it entirely theirs. It is simply the reality of human hearts, shaped by human history. Understanding this helps you communicate with more compassion. Instead of assuming misunderstanding means disrespect, you begin to see it as a reflection of someone's inner struggles. Instead of taking their reaction personally, you begin to notice the pain behind their defensiveness. Instead of trying to force clarity, you learn to speak with patience, knowing that some wounds speak louder than your words. But compassion does not mean self-sacrifice. Recognizing someone's emotional filters does not mean you must shrink your truth to avoid triggering their fears. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stand firm in your clarity while understanding their sensitivity. Sometimes it means creating space for them to heal, and sometimes it means accepting that no matter how softly you speak, their pain will still distort your message. You cannot heal every wound that shapes the way someone listens. You cannot erase their past or rewrite the lessons their life has taught them. What you can do is speak with integrity, knowing your intention is clean. You can communicate with kindness, knowing that kindness does not guarantee understanding but reflects your character. You can honor your truth even if someone else is hearing it through the echo of an old hurt. And you can remember this: their reaction is not always a reflection of your worth. Often it is a mirror of their unhealed places. People are filtering you through moments you did not create, memories you were not part of, and fears you did not cause. They are hearing your voice, but they are listening through their pain. You cannot control their filter. You can only choose to stay true to yourself, speak with honesty, and move with grace, even when someone else's wounds rewrite your words into something they were never meant to be. Your truth is not measured by someone else's ability to understand it. Truth is something deeply personal, born from your lived experiences, your lessons, your intuition, and the quiet conversations you have with your own soul. It is the light you discover within yourself after surviving moments that nearly broke you, and the wisdom you gather after walking through seasons that no one else witnessed. Your truth is shaped by the storms you endured, the dreams that lifted you, the betrayals that sharpened you, and the awakenings that remade you. No two people share the same history, so no two people will ever fully interpret truth in the same way. That is why you must never hand your power to the ones who fail to understand you. Some people will not understand your truth because they have never lived anything close to your journey. They have not walked your path, felt your heartbreak, or carried the weight of the choices you had to make. They hear your words, but they do not know the story behind them. They see your decisions, but they do not see the silent battles that shape those decisions. They see your strength, but they do not see the nights when you questioned everything. They see your boundaries, but they do not see the hurt that taught you to create them. Their inability to understand your truth is not a reflection of its value. It is simply a reflection of their perspective. There are times when someone will try to challenge your truth, not because you are wrong, but because your truth threatens the beliefs they hold about themselves. If you believe in healing and they are comfortable in their pain, they may resist your growth. If you believe you deserve respect and they benefit from your silence, they may accuse you of being difficult. If you believe in your worth and they relied on your insecurity, they may call you arrogant. Sometimes people reject your truth because they fear what it requires them to confront in their own lives. They would rather deny your clarity than face their own confusion. And then there are those who lack the emotional or spiritual maturity to receive your truth. They cannot understand the language of healing because they have not begun their own healing. They cannot understand the language of boundaries because they have never learned self-respect. They cannot understand the language of growth because they are still holding on to patterns that keep them small. Expecting such people to understand your truth is like expecting someone who has never seen the ocean to understand the depth of its waves. It is too big, too new, too unfamiliar. Their limitation is not your responsibility. You will meet people who challenge your truth not because they cannot understand it, but because accepting it would require them to change. A person who is used to you shrinking will not understand why you rise. Someone who is used to your silence will not understand when you finally speak. Someone who is used to your compliance will not understand your refusal. They may accuse you of changing, when in reality, you are becoming who you were meant to be all along. Their confusion comes from expecting the old version of you to show up when that version no longer exists. Truth is also not something that needs permission to exist. You do not need someone to approve your pain for it to be real. You do not need someone to validate your dreams for them to matter. You do not need someone to agree with your boundaries for them to be necessary. The truth you carry within you is yours, shaped by your soul, guided by your intuition, and earned through your experience. Other people may choose to misunderstand it, distort it, or dismiss it, but they cannot erase it. They cannot diminish it. They cannot replace it with their own version of reality. Your truth does not shrink when someone refuses to see it. There is great power in knowing that your truth does not depend on external understanding. It frees you from chasing validation. It frees you from explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. It frees you from shrinking to fit the expectations of those who cannot meet you where you are. It frees you from trying to convince someone who is not ready to listen. Once you realize that your truth holds its value regardless of who grasps it, you step into a level of confidence that cannot be shaken. You begin to speak with clarity instead of fear. You begin to move with purpose instead of doubt. You begin to live without apologizing for the person you have become. Some people will understand your truth only when they grow. Some may understand it years later when life teaches them lessons they were not ready for before. And some will never understand it at all. And that is perfectly fine. Your truth is not meant for everyone. It is meant for you and for those who are aligned with the person you are becoming. The people who are meant to stay in your life will understand you naturally. They will recognize your growth, feel your authenticity, and honor the clarity of your voice. They will not question your truth because it resonates with the truth within them. There is also a sacredness in owning your truth quietly. You do not need everyone to nod in agreement. You do not need to justify your evolution, your dreams, or your healing. You do not need to defend what your soul knows. Often, the strongest truth is the one lived, not the one explained. Your actions will speak what others cannot comprehend. Your peace will confirm what words cannot express. Your growth will show what arguments cannot settle. When someone cannot understand your truth, continue walking in it, continue honoring it, continue protecting it. Your truth is a compass. It guides you through the darkness even when no one else sees the light. It leads you toward your purpose even when others think you are lost. It strengthens you when others doubt you. It comforts you when others leave you. It empowers you when others try to silence you. And as you grow, your truth grows with you. So never measure your truth by the limits of someone else's understanding. Their confusion does not invalidate your clarity. Their doubt does not diminish your certainty. Their resistance does not slow your evolution. You carry a truth that was shaped by your soul, and only you know the roads you had to walk to discover it. Let it guide you. Let it strengthen you. Let it stand tall, even when others fail to see it. Your truth is yours, and it remains true, whether anyone else understands it or not. Do not shrink yourself to fit limited perceptions or fearful minds. There will always be people who try to confine you to the version of yourself that makes them feel comfortable, predictable, and in control. They will try to hold you in the frame they once understood because it reassures them. They may not know what to do with your growth, your courage, your independence, or your clarity. And instead of rising to meet you, they will ask you, directly or silently, to bend, fold, compress, reduce, or mute yourself so that you remain familiar. But you were never created to remain small. Shrinking yourself serves no one, least of all the person you were born to become. Some people fear your light because it exposes their shadows. When you begin to grow, evolve, and raise your standards, they may feel threatened, not by anything you have done wrong, but by the fact that your transformation requires them to confront their own stagnation. Instead of admiring your strength, They may interpret it as defiance. Instead of seeing your boundaries as self-respect, they may call them selfishness. Instead of honoring your independence, they may call it distance, but their labels say everything about the limits of their perception and nothing about the truth of who you are. Fearful minds interpret your expansion as danger because expansion demands change. And change is frightening for those who cling tightly to the familiar, even when the familiar hurts them. If they have become comfortable with drama, your peace will confuse them. If they thrive on control, your freedom will unsettle them. If they live within self-doubt, your confidence may look like arrogance. When someone is trapped in fear, they cannot celebrate someone else's boldness. They will try to pull you back to a level that feels safe to them. But you must remember, their fear is not your responsibility. Their limitations are not your boundaries. Shrinking yourself to match someone else's comfort is a silent form of self-betrayal. It's a quiet apology for being exactly who you are meant to be. When you dim your light so others won't feel intimidated, you teach yourself that your brilliance is a burden. When you silence your voice so others won't feel challenged, you teach yourself that your truth is inconvenient. When you downplay your dreams to avoid making someone jealous or uncomfortable, you teach yourself that your purpose should be negotiable. But your soul knows better. Every time you shrink, you step away from your destiny. And the truth is this: people who genuinely love you will never ask you to shrink. They will never fear your growth. They will never resent your evolution. Instead, they will expand with you or cheer from the side. They will support your boundaries, celebrate your confidence, and respect your journey. They will not see your healing as a threat, but as an invitation for them to heal too. The ones who ask you to stay small are the ones who fear that your growth will reveal their unwillingness to evolve. You must understand that not everyone is meant to go with you to the next chapter of your life. Some people were only aligned with an older version of you, a version that tolerated more than they should have, a version that stayed quiet longer than necessary, a version that accepted less than they deserved. When you grow beyond that version, you outgrow the relationships that depended on your smallness. It may hurt, but it is necessary. Your expansion will naturally shake anything unworthy of your future. Do not shrink your voice because someone cannot handle your truth. Speak anyway. Do not shrink your dreams because someone lacks the courage to dream themselves. Pursue them anyway. Do not shrink your love because someone is afraid of emotional depth. Love fully anyway. Do not shrink your standards because someone cannot meet them. Keep your standards anyway. What is meant for your soul will rise to meet your true size, not the version you squeezed yourself into. People with limited perceptions will try to interpret you from the lens of their own limitations. If they see the world through fear, they will see you through fear. If they see life through scarcity, they will misunderstand your abundance. If they navigate life through insecurity, they will misread your strength. You cannot force someone to see from a level they have not reached. Your responsibility is to stay aligned with your truth, not adjust yourself to fit into someone else's narrow view. And shrinking yourself never protects you anyway. It only makes you feel unseen, unheard, and unfulfilled. It leads to resentment because deep down you know you are holding yourself back for people who would never do the same for you. It suffocates creativity because creativity needs space to breathe. It blocks intuition because intuition needs room to guide you, and it disconnects you from your purpose because purpose requires expansion, not contraction. There is a kind of freedom that comes when you finally decide to stop minimizing your presence. When you walk into a room without apologizing for taking up space. When you speak your truth without softening it for someone else's comfort. When you choose to be fully yourself, even if others whisper, misunderstand, or disapprove. That freedom is powerful. It is the moment your soul exhales. It is the moment you reclaim yourself. You owe it to yourself to stand tall in your identity, your values, your dreams, and your divine potential. You were not sent here to fit inside the expectations of fearful minds. You were sent here to rise, to shine, to become, to expand. You are allowed to be big. You are allowed to be brilliant. You are allowed to be bold. You are allowed to grow in ways that others may never understand. And you are allowed to walk away from anyone who asks you to be less so. They can feel like more. Do not shrink yourself. Expand fully into the person you were destined to become. Let the ones who can rise with you rise. Let the ones who cannot fall away. Your soul has been waiting long enough for you to step into your fullness. Your responsibility is authenticity, not universal approval. Too many people spend their lives trying to mold themselves into shapes that please everybody else, hoping that if they are agreeable enough, quiet enough, kind enough, flexible enough, people will love them and never leave. But living for universal approval is a losing battle, because no matter how perfectly you try to present yourself, someone somewhere will still misunderstand you, judge you, criticize you, or expect more. Approval is a moving target. Authenticity is a foundation. Approval shifts depending on who you're with, where you are, and what others believe. Authenticity remains true regardless of the audience. Authenticity means showing up as who you really are. Your values, your truth, your boundaries, your spirit, your wounds, your wisdom, and your evolving voice. It means honoring your own soul even when others do not agree. It means refusing to betray yourself just to blend into the expectations of the crowd. Many people fear authenticity because it exposes them. It strips away the mask they've used to survive. It demands honesty. It requires them to disappoint people who benefited from their silence or compliance. But authenticity, once embodied, becomes the most liberating force in a person's life. Universal approval, on the other hand, is a cage. When you chase approval, you give strangers the power to dictate your identity. You allow other people's comfort to override your truth. You let their opinions determine your choices. And the more you try to be universally liked, the more you lose pieces of yourself. You contort your personality, shrink your voice, and dim your ambition to make sure no one feels threatened by your presence. But approval is fragile. It can shift with a rumor, a misunderstanding, or a change in someone's mood. Authenticity remains unshaken. The truth is, people don't even approve of themselves most days, so expecting them to approve of you is unrealistic. Human beings are inconsistent. What they admire in you today, they might resent tomorrow. What they praise in you now, they may criticize later. Someone will think you're too loud. Another will think you're too quiet. One will say you're too emotional. Another will say you're too detached. One will say you're too ambitious. Another will say you're too distant. Trying to meet every expectation becomes a never-ending performance, and performances exhaust the soul. Authenticity requires courage, the courage to stand alone if your truth demands it. It means choosing alignment over acceptance. It means living in a way that feels honest to your spirit, even when others cannot understand the choices you make. Authenticity does not ask, will they approve? It asks, is this true for me? It asks, does this honor who I am becoming? When you live authentically, you create a life rooted in integrity rather than insecurity. There will always be people who prefer the version of you that was easier for them to manage. Quieter, smaller, less opinionated, less aware, less empowered. They will call the real you changed, as if change is a crime. They will interpret your authenticity as rebellion because they were more comfortable when your identity revolved around their expectations. But you are not responsible for their comfort. You are responsible for your freedom. Approval ties your worth to the outside world. Authenticity anchors your worth within yourself. Approval makes you fearful of conflict. Authenticity makes you fearless in truth. Approval makes you seek permission. Authenticity gives you permission to be your whole self. When you choose authenticity, you stop chasing people who only love the watered-down version of you. You stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You stop apologizing for your boundaries, your needs, your dreams, and your voice. Being authentic does not mean being rude or careless. It means being honest and grounded. It means you choose sincerity over performance. It means you speak from your soul, not from your desire to please. It means your words align with your beliefs and your actions align with your values. It means you aren't afraid to say no, even when saying yes would make someone else more comfortable. It means you refuse to trade your peace for popularity. Some people will walk away when you become authentic. Let them. They were attached to the version of you that cost you your peace. Some people will criticize you when you stop living for their approval. Let them. Their discomfort is a sign that your authenticity exposes their inability to control you. Some people will misunderstand your intentions, your decisions, or your path. Let them. Your life is not their curriculum to study or correct. Authenticity is a magnet. It draws the right people and repels the wrong ones. When you live honestly, you attract relationships rooted in truth. You attract people who appreciate your clarity, who respect your boundaries, who value your honesty, who love your realness. And most importantly, you attract the version of yourself who trusts your own voice. Universal approval is an illusion. Even the most admired people on earth have critics. Even the kindest souls in the world are misjudged. Even the most peaceful hearts are disliked by those who live in chaos. So why keep watering yourself down in hopes of receiving something that no human being has ever fully achieved? The only approval you truly need is your own. As you grow in authenticity, you will notice something powerful. Your life begins to align. Decisions become clearer because they are rooted in your truth. Relationships become healthier because they are based on who you really are, not who you pretended to be. Your spirit becomes lighter because it no longer carries the weight of pretending. Your path becomes smoother because you are no longer walking someone else's direction. You owe it to yourself to live a life that resonates with your inner voice, not the voices around you. You were not created to be a mirror reflecting other people's expectations. You were created to express the fullness of your being. Approval comes and goes, but authenticity stays with you forever. Authenticity is the language of the soul. Approval is the hunger of the ego. At the end of the day, when the world grows quiet and you are left alone with your thoughts, you will not ask yourself, did they approve of me? You will ask, was I true to myself? And that answer will determine your peace. So choose authenticity. Choose truth. Choose yourself. Universal approval is a fleeting shadow, but authenticity is the light that follows you wherever you go. There is a quiet kind of peace that comes from finally understanding this truth. The right people will understand you naturally, no explanation needed. It is one of life's gentlest but most liberating revelations. We spend so much of our energy explaining ourselves, defending our hearts, proving our intentions, and shaping our stories in ways that might be easier for others to digest. But there comes a moment, sometimes through exhaustion, sometimes through awakening, when you realize that the people meant for your life will not require you to shrink, twist, rehearse, or translate your soul. They will meet you at the level of truth, not assumption. They will hear you with clarity, not suspicion. They will feel you with openness, not resistance. Understanding is not something you force. It is something that flows when alignment is present. Think of how natural breathing is when you're calm, and how strained it becomes when you're anxious. Communication works the same way. When you are with people who truly see you, your words breathe. They move with ease. They land softly. There is no fear of being misread or misunderstood, because their hearts are already tuned to a frequency that matches your own. And just like music, when frequencies align, harmony happens without effort. But when they clash, no amount of explanation will produce a beautiful sound. Many people spend years trying to be understood by those who never intended to understand them. They chase validation from the wrong rooms, the wrong hearts, the wrong souls. They offer long explanations to people who listen only to respond, not to feel. They open the deepest parts of themselves to people who only glance without truly seeing. And they exhaust themselves trying to be accepted by those who have already silently denied them. But the truth stands firm, unshaken. The right people will not need a map to understand your heart. Think of the moments in your life when someone understood you instantly, without long conversations or detailed backstories. Perhaps it was a friend who sensed your pain before you spoke it. Perhaps it was a stranger who caught the sincerity in your tone. Perhaps it was a mentor who recognized your potential without you listing your accomplishments. These moments remind us that understanding is not a product of effort. It is a product of connection. You could explain your point of view for hours to someone who has already decided not to hear you, and still they will misunderstand. You could soften your truth, water down your feelings, or reshape your identity, and still they will misinterpret. Not because you are unclear, but because they are not aligned. Some people are committed to misunderstanding you because clarity threatens the stories they tell themselves. Some people misunderstand you because they only listen through ego. Some misunderstand because they fear what you represent: growth, honesty, courage, self-awareness, qualities that might challenge their own comfort zones. But the right people, those who belong in your story, will meet your truth with ease. They may not always agree with you, but they will always seek to understand you. They will ask instead of assume. They will clarify instead of react. They will move closer instead of pulling away. Being understood by the right people feels like sunlight on a cold morning. Warm, effortless, and deeply affirming. There is a quiet relief that comes when you stop begging for understanding. The weight leaves your shoulders, the strain leaves your voice, the tension leaves your heart. You begin to speak more honestly because you're no longer performing. You begin to breathe deeper because you're no longer anticipating judgment. You begin to live more boldly because you're no longer trying to fit into spaces that shrink you. And something else happens, something unexpected but powerful. When you stop chasing understanding, you naturally begin attracting people who understand you. Your authenticity becomes a magnet. Your clarity becomes a filter. Your truth becomes a beacon. The right people recognize you because they are aligned with you spiritually, emotionally, energetically. They understand not only your words, but your silences. They notice your intentions, not just your actions. They feel your sincerity, not just your sentences. These are the relationships where you feel safe. These are the spaces where your soul rests. These are the people who remind you that being understood should feel natural, not forced. It should feel grounding, not exhausting. It should feel like coming home, not walking on eggshells. And here's the powerful part. You don't have to explain yourself endlessly to the right people because they are already listening with their hearts, not their assumptions. They do not need you to shapeshift into something more acceptable or palatable. They embrace your complexity. They appreciate your depth. They honor your truth. They value your presence. Understanding is a form of love. It is a form of respect. It is a form of recognition. And the right people will offer these things without being asked. You will not have to earn your place. You will not have to justify your feelings. You will not have to dilute your dreams. Your very being will be enough. So the next time you find yourself trying to force understanding in a space that isn't receiving you, remember this. Your worth is not determined by how clearly someone else perceives you. Let people misunderstand you if they must. Let them form opinions built on assumptions. Let them interpret your silence however they choose. You don't have to explain your soul to those who are not meant to walk beside it. Your energy is too precious to spend on hearts not ready to hold it. Your voice is too important to waste on ears not ready to hear it. Your truth is too sacred to offer to those who approach it casually. The right people will understand you naturally, not because you are simple, but because they are aligned. Not because you explain perfectly, but because they listen with intention. Not because you prove yourself, but because they recognize you. And when you find those people, when you stand in the presence of souls who see you clearly, you will realize that understanding was never supposed to be hard. It was supposed to feel like recognition. It was supposed to feel like arrival. It was supposed to feel like home. Walk with grace, strength, and courage, even when others cannot hear your heart. There will be moments in life when your voice feels like a whisper in a storm, when your intentions feel invisible, when your truth stands tall, but others refuse or fail to see it. These moments are not signs that you are weak or that your message lacks power. They are reminders that your path is not meant to be validated by every eye, every ear, or every opinion. You were not born to be universally understood. You were born to be authentic, and authenticity often demands the bravery to stand firm, even when silence meets your sincerity. Grace is your ability to remain calm and dignified when misunderstanding surrounds you. Strength is your capacity to keep moving forward, even when the world pushes against your chest. Courage is the quiet, steady flame in your soul that refuses to be extinguished by judgment, noise, or rejection. Together, these qualities create a way of living that does not depend on applause, agreement, or approval. They create a life rooted in self-respect. There will be people who misinterpret your intentions simply because they cannot see beyond their own wounds. There will be those who minimize your dreams because they are intimidated by the size of your vision. Some will be too busy, too distracted, or too self-focused to recognize the depth of what you carry. And some will hear only the surface of your words, never the heart you poured into them. But your journey is not built on the understanding of others. It is built on your own resilience, clarity, and inner truth. This is why you must walk with grace. Grace is not weakness. Grace is choosing not to allow the misunderstandings of others to turn you bitter. It is refusing to let their inability to hear you make you lose the music of your own soul. Grace is meeting conflict without losing your peace. It is responding without reacting. It is choosing dignity over drama. When others cannot hear your heart, grace becomes your shield, a soft but powerful reminder that you do not have to match anyone's chaos. To walk with grace is to understand that not every battle needs your participation. Some situations do not require your explanation. Some criticisms do not deserve your response. Some people do not need to be convinced. True power often lies in the stillness of restraint. It lies in knowing who you are, even when others attempt to define you through misunderstanding. Grace lets you stand in the center of yourself without being shaken by external noise. But grace alone is not enough. You must also walk with strength. Strength does not always roar. Sometimes it whispers, "Keep going." Sometimes it simply means showing up for yourself when no one else is clapping. Strength is your ability to stay grounded in your values when pressures and expectations try to sway you. It is the courage to continue even when your heart feels unheard. There will be days when you feel tired, when you wonder if it is worth holding on to your truth when so few seem to understand it. Strength is what keeps you steady in these moments. It reminds you that your purpose is deeper than their perception. It reminds you that growth often happens in silence, that progress often goes unseen, and that transformation rarely wins instant applause. Strength allows you to trust the process even when the path feels lonely. Courage is the third piece of this powerful triad. Courage is choosing to stay open even after disappointment. It is letting your heart remain soft in a world that sometimes responds with hardness. Courage is the willingness to show up as yourself despite the fear of being misunderstood. It is daring to speak your truth even when the room is filled with doubt. Courage is not about the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward alongside it. To walk with courage means trusting that your heart is worth hearing, even when others fail to hear it. It means trusting that your dreams are worth pursuing, even when others cannot imagine them. It means honoring your feelings, even when others invalidate them. Courage keeps your inner fire alive in the face of silence. When you walk with grace, strength, and courage, something shifts inside you. You stop looking outward for permission to live your truth. You stop trying to fit into spaces that were never meant to hold you. You stop explaining your heart to people who have not yet developed the capacity to understand it. Instead, you begin to take ownership of who you are and what you feel. You begin to trust your own voice, your own intuition, your own journey. Walking this way means accepting that not everyone is meant to walk beside you. Some people will only join you for a few steps. Some will drift away because your growth outpaced their comfort. Some will step aside because your courage reminded them of their stagnation. Let them go. Your path is not defined by who stays. It is defined by how deeply you stay true to yourself. People may not always hear your heart, but your heart is not meant to echo in every ear. It is meant to guide you, strengthen you, and reveal your path. It is meant to speak to those who are aligned with your soul, those who have ears tuned to compassion, understanding, and truth. These are the people who will hear you without effort. These are the people who will recognize the sincerity in your silence and the depth in your presence. But before others hear your heart, you must hear it yourself. You must listen to its whispers in the quiet moments, honor its truths when they challenge your comfort, and trust its wisdom even when the world offers doubt. Your heart knows the way long before others understand it. So walk forward, grace in your posture, strength in your steps, courage in your spirit. Walk with the understanding that your journey is yours alone to define. Walk knowing that the people who are meant for your life will eventually meet you in clarity. Walk remembering that a misunderstood heart is still a true heart. And even on the days when others cannot hear you, walk anyway. Walk with purpose. Walk with dignity. Walk with your head lifted gently toward the horizon. Walk knowing that your heart has value even in silence. Walk knowing that your voice matters even when unacknowledged. Walk knowing that your spirit remains whole, powerful, and worthy. Walk with grace, strength, and courage, because those qualities do not depend on who understands you. They depend only on who you choose to become. When someone does not understand you, remember this: your voice was never meant for everyone, only for those who are ready to receive it. So keep speaking, keep shining, keep being who you were born to be. Your truth will find its listeners, and your light will find its home.